Throughout history, language has connected people to their past, to each other, to their communities and culture, but sometimes it's even helped change the course of wars. One language, Navajo, played a part in World War II that's still almost unbelievable to this day. But before we get into that, let's talk a bit about the people who speak it, the Navajo Nation. The Navajo people, or Dene as they call themselves, are the largest Native American tribe in the United States. They live primarily in the Southwest, across parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. Their language, Navajo, has been spoken for centuries and is a unique member of the Athabascan language family, which actually originated in the distant northern regions of Canada and Alaska before evolving into the Navajo language we know today. It's a language filled with complex tones, sounds, and grammar structures that are difficult for outsiders to understand, let alone speak. By the 20th century, Navajo was rarely spoken outside of the Navajo Nation, and it had no written form. Knowledge of it was passed down through speech, which as it turns out made it the perfect candidate for a military code. In 1942, as World War II intensified, the US needed a code that couldn't be broken and was fast and effective in battle. Usual military codes were being cracked quickly, so the Marines turned to a language that almost no one outside of the Navajo Nation could understand, let alone interpret, Navajo. And from it, they created the only true unbreakable code of the war, brought to life by the Navajo Code Talkers, also known as the Wind Talkers. That year, the Marines recruited 29 Navajo men to develop a military code based on their language. It was more than just Navajo, they transformed it into a coded vocabulary for the battlefield. Military terms were translated into everyday Navajo words, and for things without an exact equivalent, they made clever substitutions. Take tank for example. Now, the Navajo Nation hadn't quite mastered armoured track vehicles, so they needed an alternative. They translated that as turtle. Think about it, a slow-moving, hard-to-crack, tough-shelled vehicle. Then there was bomb, which became egg. Now that might sound cute and innocent, but trust me, when those eggs were flying down on enemy positions, it was hardly harmless. But what made the Navajo code so effective? First, it was Navajo itself, a language so unique with no written form and complex sounds that it was virtually impossible for anyone unfamiliar with it to understand. Then they added layers of substitution and vocabulary, so even if someone overheard a message, it would sound like pure gibberish. And here's the most impressive part. These men were transmitting, receiving, and decoding messages in real time under enemy fire. Imagine being barely out of your teens, crouched in a foxhole, bullets flying, radio in hand, rapidly transmitting terms that only a small group in the entire military could understand. I struggle to multitask with a cup of tea in my hands. These men did it with enemy fire raining overhead. And the results? Incredible. Navajo code talkers could transmit and decode messages far faster than traditional ciphers, and while other military codes were cracked within days, sometimes even hours, the Navajo code stayed secure for the entire war. Even if the enemy intercepted a transmission, all they'd hear was a series of sounds that made absolutely no sense. Japanese codebreakers, some of the best in the world, never even came close. The Navajo code talkers played crucial roles in battles like Iwo Jima, where they transmitted over 800 messages within 48 hours, all without a single error. This level of precision and speed could mean the difference between victory and defeat, and on those islands, it often did. No doubt saving countless lives. After the war, their contributions classified. The Code Talkers' story remained a military secret for over 2 decades. They went home as unsung heroes, not even able to tell their families. It wasn't until 1968 that the world learned what these men had accomplished. They'd helped change the course of a war, yet they weren't even allowed to speak of it. Imagine being part of something history-changing, something so monumental, and having to keep it all to yourself. Thankfully, over the years, the Code Talkers have received the recognition they deserve. Today, the Navajo language stands as a symbol of resilience and pride, a testament to the strength of the Navajo people. What started as an unbreakable code has become a story of heritage, respect, and honor. The legacy of the Navajo Code Talkers shows us the power of language and culture. They turned their knowledge, their identity, into something that helped shape history. So the next time you think about cryptography or unbreakable codes, remember, sometimes the best solutions don't come from machines or ciphers, they come from people. And in this case, people who spoke a language that remains, even now, one of the world's best kept secrets. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.